Okay, so we talked about negativity bias in the previous video. So this video, I want to take it up one step further and ask ourselves, what specifically can we do about these negativity biases, and how does that connect to emotional intelligence, right? Our development of our emotional intelligence. So from this particular blog on mind viruses and how to overcome them, the writer talks about negativity bias as a kind of a mind virus. So think about it. It is, isn't it? You know, when you're not well, you have bacteria or virus infection. When your mind is not healthy, it's kind of a virus that's affecting your mind, that's causing you to have these disparaging, negative ideas about yourself. So such negativity biases or mind viruses such as, I can't do this, I want to give up, I failed, this is the worst thing that could have happened, right? What can you say to counter that? What are some of the ways you can reframe these statements? So this particular website recommends, for instance, for the statement, I can't do this. You know, one way to reframe it is, you may not be sure how to do this, but there are plenty of ways for you to learn. I want to give up. If you want to give up, you've lost and you're no loser. It may take you a little more time, but you're fully capable of seeing this through. I have failed. What's a way to reframe that? This situation doesn't define you. When you say you failed, it's as if to say that experience, the thing that happened, that defines who you are. It can't be, right? That one episode doesn't define your entire identity, your entire life as a human being, right? So this situation doesn't define you, and you can try something different now. So there are ways to kind of overcome this. So when we talk about negativity bias, one of the things we need to always keep in mind is, how do we regulate ourselves? How do we take care of our mental state? So in this book by Peter Hollins called Think Like Einstein, he talks about one way to self-regulate. But first of all, let's find out what is self-regulation. Self-regulation is, and I quote, the ability to think about your own thinking, is to take a step outside your head, right? And determine if you are comprehending or thinking about something effectively. So when you say about yourself that I have failed, when you say that, you know, I will amount to nothing and I'm a loser, or I can't do this anymore. When you say all those things, are those effective way of thinking about your life and your circumstance? Obviously not, right? They're not effective, because if they were effective, they will show you to find solutions. They will point you to the direction of solutions. But when you're not thinking effectively, you can't see solutions. So that's where self-regulation comes in, the ability to think of ways to overcome your situation. So what does self-regulation require? It requires a level of self-awareness in order to kind of look at your situation, your current situation, and ask yourself, what am I doing now that is not working? What can I do to improve it? Right? It also helps you see the bigger picture of your circumstance, your situation. So this all connects back to emotional intelligence, doesn't it? Right? So what is emotional intelligence? According to this definition by Meyer and Salovey, I don't know how to pronounce the name, 1990, emotional intelligence is the ability to monitor one's own and other people's feelings and emotions, and also to discriminate amongst them and to use the information to guide one's thinking and action. So emotional intelligence not only helps you to self-regulate, right? To know, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Where can I learn from this? What can I learn from this experience? Which way should I be going? So that is to monitor, to evaluate yourself, to ask yourself these questions. But it is also to help monitor other people's emotions and feelings. So emotional intelligence is not just about the self, it's also about others. And in fact, emotional intelligence is one important component of the multiple intelligences that Howard Gardner talks about in his book, in his 1983 book on the theory of multiple intelligences. So, intrapersonal intelligence is one component of it. The other is interpersonal intelligence. And of course, there are other types of intelligences, but the combination of these two help create emotional intelligence. Okay, so I'm moving myself all over the page. So what does intrapersonal intelligence mean? According to Peter Hollins in his book, Think Like Einstein, intrapersonal intelligence means that you think about your own actions and thoughts a lot. You have an objective sense of self. So this element of being objective, I think this is am I repeating myself here? Okay, no, I'm not. So all this, self-regulation, intrapersonal intelligence, emotional literacy, how does it all come together? I want to draw your attention to this particular psychological model called Johari window, created or developed by two psychologists in the 1950s by the name of Joseph Luft and Harry Ingram. Okay. What Johari window does is it kind of breaks down components of ourselves that are both known and unknown to ourselves as well as to other people. So if you look at this green square, this is the bit that's called the open self, right? This is when the window is open to yourself or known to yourself as well as known to other people. So think about certain things that people can know about you that you know about yourself. Your height, your eye color, your skin color, your features, your accent, the way you speak, the way you address people, the way you address yourself. So those aspects are known information that people know about you and you know about yourself as well. And then there is this component called the hidden self, where basically it's your secrets. You know this about yourself, but not many people know about you. All right. Then there is this thing called the blind self, where people know this about you. People notice this about you, rather, but you don't seem to notice about yourself, right? For instance, when you're nervous and you're doing a presentation, is there any tics that you express? Like maybe you gesture a lot, you move your hands a lot, or you keep touching your nose, or maybe you say okay a lot or all right a lot, right? So there are certain tendencies that we exhibit, especially in public, that people are able to observe about us that maybe we are not mindful about our actions. So this is the bits called the blind self. And of course there is the fourth quarter, which is people don't know about you and you don't know about yourself, or rather you haven't figured it out yet, the unknown side of you. Okay. But what intrapersonal intelligence does, it helps uncover this third quarter, the blind self, right? So in order to kind of have a more comprehensive sense of who we are as a human being, you want to try to open up these windows. Of course, you know about yourself and you know about your hidden self, but you also want to explore the blind self. And, we're talking about this, I want to contextualize this to a story. This is a novel by the writer called Frank Herbert. His book is called Dune. He wrote a series of 6 books using the same premise, the same landscape, the same characters, and the evolution of the story is based on the same premise. But in his first book, he basically talks about this particular character by the name of Paul Atreides. He is the son of the Duke, Leto Atreides, and Paul is actually the heir to the house of the Atreides. In order to take the position of the heir, in order to become the head of the house of Atreides, Paul needed to have been tested by the masters of the time, and the test is basically a kind of a psychological test. So there's this one test in which he is tested for his level of fear, right? Where he has to put his hand in this box, and the master who tests him, or the mistress who tests him, inflicts a kind of emotional pain or psychological pain to him. And he must withstand that pain. He must not give in to the pain. So in that particular scene, this is made into a movie, by the way, and this scene is in this YouTube clip. You can have a look at it. I'll share the link with you. But in this scene, this is what Paul does to overcome his fear, to overcome his psychological pain that he's experiencing, which is manifesting as a physical pain. He keeps saying these statements to himself, right? I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass through me, pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So he's going through this pain. He's going through this traumatic experience as part of his test, right? But one of the things that he does is to use this kind of affirmations, if you like. If you remember in the first task that I gave you, you were asked to come up with affirmations. You were supposed to create it into a kind of a poster and share it on our Telegram group, right? So affirmations are not just normal words. Affirmations have an impact. When you keep saying it again and again and again, it can be a form of, it can be a way to manage your emotions, right? So this is an example where the negativity bias, the negative experience that Paul is enduring, which is chronic pain that he's experiencing, psychologically that is manifested physically on his hand, he is overcoming that by making these affirmations, these statements. So I want you to kind of think about that for this week's task. For this week's journaling task, I want you to first of all think about what worries you. What are some things that you experience, negative thoughts that you experience that worries you, right? And based on that, I want you to kind of like reframe it. Ask yourself some critical questions. What can you do to learn? Okay, what can you do to overcome it? What can you learn from this experience? Is there anything that you could do better after having experienced this? Is there anything you can do better? So for this week's journaling task, this is part 1, by the way. So you need to write down all of your negativity bias. Think about the statements that you go through on a almost daily, weekly basis. Negative statements that you have experienced. Write them down, right? And then choose one of them and reframe it by asking yourself, what have I learned? What can I do better? So parting thoughts, there's something to inspire for. This is what Linus, so here's a parting thought from Peanuts Friends. Charlie Brown asks Linus, do you ever think much about the future, Linus? And Linus says, yes, all the time. And Charlie asks, what do you think you'll be like when you grow up? And Linus says, outrageously happy. My wish for all of us is to be outrageously happy.